Yo, alright, so it's February 5th, 9:35 p.m. I did take another nap today, but it's been quite a while since that nap, because I woke up at around 6, right? I posted the video to YouTube yesterday, kind of just on a whim, and I decided I was going to do it like halfway through the video, and it's always interesting seeing how, like, the fact that it's going to be public affects my thinking and affects my kind of like just general living situation over like the past day, right? Because I've done this before and I've done it on an alt account and then I privated the videos, right? And even then, what I saw in my mind is that, I kind of felt like it was important, like I had to keep going. But it also kind of like lessened the lessen the amount of brain power I was able to put into each kind of recording, right? Because I always come in with either like something I want to talk about already or just like a lot built up on my mind so it all flows out. But I don't think, posting stuff to YouTube puts a bit of more pressure on me. And that pressure takes up space in my mind. And that space is usually used for like, coming up with new ideas or synthesizing or deliberating something like something helpful or something cool or something that's just interesting to me. But posting to YouTube once again puts pressure on me, right? And I guess one of the things I can say is that once again, I can say once again the pressure of me knowing that I'm going to put this up onto YouTube seems to kind of weigh on my mind when I started the video. Because when I started the video yesterday, I thought it was just going to be another like, oh, I yap into my camera and then I leave that in my documents folder like forever, right? And then that ended up not being the case. I ended up completely ignoring the fact that I've been doing this for a while now, and I kind of just posted it right off a whim. And what that pressure has done to me right now is it's kind of making me rethink what I'm doing, and it's kind of like a proto fear where I don't exactly feel afraid, but there is a pressure on me that is stopping me from flowing out the exact words that I want to get out, which is why I might not exactly have the greatest speech today, but that's also because I had a lot more on my mind yesterday compared to today, right? And another additional pressure that this puts on me, right, is that like I feel like I have to do something new compared to yesterday. And I think what's going to be new, first of all, is I'm going to try and make this way shorter. Yesterday's one was 30 minutes long. That's way too long. But second of all, I'm going to try and learn an editing technique. I'm going to try and learn something. So if you see on my finger right now a black square, that means I've learned something. I've learned how to track my finger so that there's a black square there. If there's no black square, that means I'm a lazy motherfucker, but that's just kind of life, right? But I had some kind of other important things to like deliberate about on camera today, and it has to do with like YouTube, and it's kind of the reason like why I want to do YouTube and kind of the way that this delusion has kind of affected me over my entire life, right? So when I was about 6 years old, I first decided that I wanted to make a YouTube channel, but I never really had the knowledge of how to do it. I didn't even know that editing existed. I thought I could just talk into a camera and it would be exactly like those curated, well, not too, what's it called? Hyper engaging but it was nearing the level of, what's it called, specialization, I guess I could say, that videos have reached today, where it's like everything has to be the maximum amount of engagement, it has to be the maximum amount of cuts, a maximum amount of edits that, can keep your eyes, keep your attention for as long as possible. That wasn't exactly how it was back in like 2016 or whatever age that was, 2015, 14. Doesn't matter, right? But I only gained the ability to make YouTube videos once I went to one of my friend's houses, and this friend showed me how to kind of share it to YouTube. And that's when I made my first YouTube videos. And I was like, this is great. I'm going to share everything. I'm going to make a vlog. People are going to love me, right? Just kind of some very 7-year-old, I'm the greatest, I have the massive ego, I live in the suburbs kind of mentality, right? And I'm glad that that only persisted until about 11 years old, because I look back on some of those videos and I obviously cringe at them because I have become a completely different person since that person. But the delusion still stands, right? I still want to make a YouTube channel, but the way I want to make it has changed over time. And what I mean by that is, like, originally I wanted to be like a vlogger. Originally I wanted to be someone who like made gaming videos or was just free form like that. Or I wanted to do something similar to this, where I just kind of get on the camera and I keep talking and then people listen, right? But knowing what I know now, and knowing the creator economy, and knowing all the things that I've just kind of consumed over the years, that's not how YouTube works, right? That's not how the creator economy works. That's not how the meta even is. Um, People talking at the camera kind of videos have increased in popularity over the past 2 years, I'd say, but overall, it's still a grand majority hyper specified, hyper interactive kind of meta videos, right? But what I want to do now compared to before is I want to make video essays, right? And the reason I want to make video essays is because they helped me in my life, right? I probably wouldn't have been this aware of kind of like my own life, aware of where I wanted to go, aware of the world, if I never found video essays back in like 2020 or even 2019 even. And it started very innocently, where I was like, oh, I hate how they did the new Star Wars, or actually people are saying that it was pretty bad, but I didn't really see it. Why do people say it? And I almost fell into like the right wing pipeline kind of that way. And then the closer look, he was like, hey, wait a minute, you guys are all blaming the actors. Um, uh, let's actually analyze the story. What the went wrong with the sequel trilogy, really, in the writing portion and in the production portion, and how it was actually made compared to, the outwards presentation of the actors after the movies, right? Because, laughing at stupid performances is always fun for a while, but I always found it interesting to kind of know what was actually behind it. So I magically and mystically was able to kind of get out of the realm of the culture war and stuff like that. But it did take me a few years, I'm not going to lie. I think it took until the Barbie movie, really, for me to get completely out of it. Because, like, I still watched some of the insult the actress, make fun of this person for this reason, all writers are woke is the problem. And I thought it was good because, like, um at the end of the day, what the right and the left wanted out of the culture war was kind of the same thing. They wanted giants to fall. And I wanted to see if it was possible for a giant to fall. I wanted to see if Disney could fall, right? And that's very ironic, seeing as I'm wearing an ESPN sweater. I actually despise ESPN for reasons untold, but that's a whole nother topic that I'm never going to get into because I have no reason to, right? But I wanted to see if Disney could fall, and then, after I realized that no, it won't, just because there's a couple bad actors and because the whole company seems to be suffering from an internal war based on, what does China like versus what does America like politically. That didn't kill the company. It just kind of made everybody aware of how cinema was going a little bit downhill, right? And it gave me more political awareness at the end of the day, but it also kept me very mean for a large period of time. So there's always that kind of like caveat to it, right? And when the Barbie movie came out and I saw its massive success, I was like, oh, well, a lot of the people that I've seen really liked it, and I've seen some really cool analyses, and I kind of know the plot of the movie because I've seen even plot summaries, and I actually don't think that, any of this is this bad, right? And then I went online, or on the other side of the online, and I saw Ben Shapiro like burning a copy, and then everybody was praising Ben Shapiro like, this guy is a hero. He's a messenger, right, for the people. And I was like, what? Like, what? This does not make any sense. And so I completely dropped that kind of mentality, and I continued on the video essay train, just kind of in the writing portion, because I gained an interest in writing around 2021, I think it was. But before that, I kind of hated writing, and 2024 was definitely the breaking point. Was it 2024? When was Barbie and Oppenheimer? That was 2023. All right, so it was actually sooner than I thought it was that I got out of that, which is probably why I ended up beginning to grow around 2023. That's kind of when I took my mask off. But that's unrelated, and I kind of went off on a tangent completely unrelated to why I like video essays in the first place, right? And the reason I want to make video essays is because, number one, they helped me, and number two, I think they help a lot of people, right? And that's kind of like my selfish goal, is that I kind of want to make a video essay to get myself popular, to make myself money, but at the same time, I want to help people along the way, and I want my words to have some sort of importance, right? That's why I continued to hone my craft. That's why I continued to make like scripts that the world will never see, even though I kind of like, for a while, like I have the Connections future-based script where I was like looking through the history, and I was going to make it, and I keep like making ideas for scripts, but at the end of the day, I know that video essays actually don't make a lot of money, right? The only people who make money from video essays are the people who either, number one, have a large network of people helping them, and number two, have at least, we'll say, 200,000 subscribers. And even those people with over 200,000 subscribers still need to have a day job, right? FD Signifier, I think, only quit his job around like 500K, but that's going off of memory. I'm not actually sure about that. But these people dedicate their lives to their essays, and it's kind of like very cool, and it takes a while, and I know it takes a while because I've tried to make a script since about 2021, right? I made a script kind of like criticizing hyperpop, and I read it back in 2025 at around June, and I was like, what in the Sam shit? This is the most vitriolic, terrible writing I've ever seen in my life. I really started here. That's crazy, right? So I took that, and I was like, okay, well, you know what? I know what my problem is now. I have to have less vitriol. And that's kind of the problem, right? Is that, the reason I have never posted a video essay, the reason I've never made a video essay is because I'm always afraid that I don't have the right words to do it, right? I'm always afraid that I don't have the persuasion, I don't have the valuable information, I don't have the ability to make it fast, I don't have the ability to give people information fast enough for it to actually be valuable and worth people's time, because I hate it when a video essay or something else wastes my time, right? That's why I always say, I have to find the good shit, right? I have to find what's best for me, what I like consuming, and what gives me the most value. And I know what a good video essay looks like, and I know what a bad video essay looks like, but it's very hard to actually ascertain what the difference is unless you've watched a lot of video essays yourself. That being said, I will try, right? Because I can't just say that with no evidence, right? So I've noticed that a lot of the video essays that are bad are made by a certain type of person, right? A certain kind of angry person. And anger is something that can be channeled and used as a tool, but overall, at the end of the day, when I watched videos about AI back in 2022, they were all like, AI will never surpass, look at how shit it is. And, I was like, well, I get that messaging, right? I get the messaging that AI is bad now, but I also am aware that this is the worst that it'll ever get. And back then, there was a complete lack of kind of foresight, I guess you could say, that, eventually this shit will get to a point and you can't really just insult it out of the cultural zeitgeist, right? And people thought it was possible, and it was nice to kind of get a little bit of confidence back in human creation, right? And to this day, AI is not going to kill human creation. I'm confident in that, right? It's going to make a lot of people afraid to create, but it's not going to kill it entirely. But back then, people were very angry about AI. One second. All right, I paused the recording because my dad came downstairs. But continuing on with the AI thing, right? Whenever people would make those video essays about AI back in like 2023, they'd be so angry and vitriolic that they would end up attacking the audience instead of, putting the energy and putting that space in their mind that anger occupied into kind of having a little bit of foresight and, being aware of the entire space and presence around them of the issue that they're trying to talk about. And at the end of the day, they don't add anything new to the conversation. And you know what? That's a little bit of a problem with me too, because, after watching one AI video back then, I pretty much saw like 90% of them, because there would be probably one or two new things added to the conversation per video, but ultimately it was the same information repeated to you over and over again, right? So it was a problem with me knowing, but that did also help me understand kind of like what is good in a video essay and what is not, right? And this even goes like past AI, is that, what, I've seen people get angry about a lot of things, and angry video essays aren't actually inherently bad, but the people who are angry more often than not tend to make video essays that, don't really mean much of anything at all, or kind of lack, once again, foresight, right? And the two most egregious issues I've ever seen in video essays is one time I went onto a YouTube channel and I kind of like, I clicked on their video and fuck it, I'll just say their name, Anthony Gramulgia, something like that. I still remember his like basic full name, because like the video was like that bad that I actually went back for multiple years and researched why I didn't like it so much, right? And the initial issue that I had with it is that it felt like he didn't really have an understanding that he was doing exactly what he was criticizing in his video essay. Like it was about I think how creators kind of like make takes in bad faith or analyze things in bad faith without considering the opinions of others or something like that. I don't know. It included a list of like 4 or 5 different essayists. Uh, and you know what? I checked the comments and there was only like one comment with like 6 likes pointing out the same thing I did. And so I kind of got mad at it and I left it. But later I went back to kind of figure out why I didn't like it. I found it wasn't really as much of a problem as I thought, but there was another problem underlying, right? Number one, the guy was angry. Number two, he kind of was attacking the audience. But number three, I checked his YouTube channel. There was 17 fucking videos on some person named Lily, right? 17 videos on one person. Nobody fucking needs 17 videos on one person. I don't care what you have to say. I don't care how many times you respond. That is a waste of your time. That is a waste of the time of the person making the video and the waste of your time if you can watch all of that shit. What is going on, right? And those kind of slop channels are everywhere. But I thought he wasn't a slop channel. Like, he was a published journalist, and I didn't know that, like, published journalists didn't really mean much at the time. But uh, it bewildered me, right? And then the second one I saw is that, you know what? It's terrible when a video essayist tries to make a point, but doesn't just use his words to do it, right? A lot of them are video are very well researched, right? Very well read, but one specific Elliot Sang video that I watched last year kind of irked me to no end, and it's what made me stop watching his videos, right? And I think it was something about like intellectualism, right? Anti-intellectualism and versus, what actually is it, maybe? I'm not sure. But I watched it and I thought it was going to be his opinion, and largely it kind of was, but about 20 minutes of the video was spent going over, instead of his own opinion, it was reading an essay from somebody else who had researched the topic, right? And that isn't what I clicked. I've clicked for kind of your opinion on it, but I did click for the research you did. That is correct. I do like it when people are well read. I do like it when people are well researched in their videos, but the way that Elliot Sang did it in this particular video pissed me off because I didn't get as much new information, and every time he introduced something new, it was connected to something that he made like 3 points ago that was like a sentence long and didn't really hold any narrative weight. It felt like the story was constantly being broken, like the narrative was constantly not progressing, but instead I was trying to keep track of so many different parts that did connect to each other, but were so disconnected in speech and rhetoric that were just completely and entirely fucked the video for me, right? I had to stop watching at about 25 minutes because otherwise I probably would have punched a hole in my wall, right? That's how bad it was to me back then. And that might have been 24, maybe 25. It probably was February of 25 because I didn't have a very good control of my emotions back in 25 at the beginning of the year. But I do remember pausing the video constantly, walking around, trying to, consume the information in my brain, trying to be like, what is actually wrong with this essay? And then coming back and being like, okay, yeah, I have to shut it off, right? Because the hole in the wall thing was a bit of an exaggeration. But how does this relate back to me, right? It relates back to my fear, right? My fear of making video essays is the fear that I will actually make the same mistakes as these people. And it's actually probably inevitable that I will, if I ever do make a video essay, make the same mistakes as these people, seeing as I have a whole hell of an issue getting... Will it even show? I'll make it show. There we go. Look, 24 minutes and 30 seconds, right? 24 minutes and 30 seconds. I planned to only do it for about 15. I will probably not be able to communicate an idea quicker than anybody else on the platform. And I doubt my ability at all times to make something that has a new perspective, is my own words, and is well thought up enough to kind of spread information in a way that is enjoyable, right? I love just sitting here in free flow yelling at my camera, but I do not yet have the experience with kind of writing something down. I've tried it before, right? I've tried writing something down before and speaking it out, and I've even practiced it by reading out some of the written rants I used to do before I started the video rants back in December of 2024. But at the end of the day, right? Fuck, what was I saying? At the end of the day, they are two completely different things. One is reading a script and the other is just free flowing out from the head, right? And I've gotten very good at free flowing out from the head because literally I've practiced it for an entire year. And before that, I had experience with doing it on paper. Or actually, I call on paper on just a document, right? It's not actually on paper. I do have some journal entries on paper, but those largely don't. Those largely don't ever get seen by me even, right? It's been a while since I've read them because the last one I made was like in 2024, something stupid. But yeah. So if I want to make a video essay, the goal of these kind of rant videos is going to eventually be for me to build up enough confidence with putting my thoughts out into the world to be able to make a good video essay, right? Because I feel like I once again, I have the ideas and I have the wording, right? Or I have the words. Words. I don't have the wording. I don't have the phrasing, right? And, that's kind of a confidence issue. I analyzed a lot of my video yesterday and I saw how much I was going, or or right, question mark, those kind of like filler words. And overall, I want to get rid of that, but at the same time, that's not a replacement for the vigorous editing process, the multiple script revisions, and the actual script writing that goes into making a video essay. And that also doesn't exactly apply, although it does apply about 60% to being able to deliver the lines out to a camera in a way that I'm satisfied with, because I speak very differently than I read. I kind of try and get a rhythm, or I get too much in my head when I read, and it ends up kind of just falling flat in my eyes, right? But shit. Okay, I guess I think I can read this. Yeah, okay. So I'll try to read something out, and I'll see back when I watch this back on the editing portion, kind of like what happens to my mind when I'm actually trying to read, right? So this is a rant I made yesterday at 8:46 a.m. Starting now. I've just realized I have almost nothing to do that I shouldn't really be doing at home. In this scenario, I can do two things. I can mindlessly check my email or deliberate myself so that I can make sure the brain stays on for as long as possible before I get to my free. What I've been doing over the past period is drilling the rhythms that I know by tapping it on my desk and observing how my brain and ears perceive the rhythm. I didn't do it very loud. Probably, or at least hopefully, the only person who heard it other than me was the person sitting in front of me. But it helped me realize that this is one of the many things that I used to do that I kind of suppressed out of me over time. I didn't really want other people to be bothered by my tapping, and overall I was a little afraid they would notice at all. But if I forget all those things for a moment, I find that I have a smoother rhythmic pulse at my beck and call. I want to try doing these rants on the document again, not only because it helps me deliberate while in school, but also because I noticed that I have the ability to say the words I want to say, but the order I say them in is either improper or downright illegible. There's a difference between the order that people use words in reality compared to the words I use compared to the way I use words in my head. Overall, that affects my ability to communicate clearly and concisely, something I've been working towards for the entirety of my writing journey, but I didn't know how to diagnose my exact problem until now. It's not that I don't have the words. It's not that I don't have the words, not anymore. It's about how I use them that seems to be the primary issue I'm facing. Thankfully, the fix seems pretty easy. I just have to be mindful about the way I write things down, focus a little on semantics more than internal rhythm, and after following that process, I ultimately find myself with the exact sentences I wanted to write, except with the proper phrasing this time. Anyways, I'm gonna go take a walk real quick. See ya. Okay. So initial analysis, I can say that I've gotten better at reading, and you wouldn't know that as the people watching the video if someone even got this fucking far, which I highly and completely doubt, but you wouldn't know that. But this is completely different from the way I would have read something like 3 months ago or maybe even 2 weeks ago, right? Because I have been focusing more on like, oh yes, I don't have a wording problem, I have a rhythmic and phrasing problem in my head for the past about, we'll say 5 days or maybe even less than that. So I have gained a new perspective, and I've gained a wider understanding of kind of like the way that I have to view life, view things, view what I'm doing in the moment, so that I don't just focus on, what I think should be there. I focus on what is actually there, and I focus on what's next, what's after the thing that I'm reading right now. It's having a little bit of foresight, right? And that is kind of like the way I write things, or I read the things that I write. The other thing is that what I wrote down there is a raw rant, but it's a raw rant that I think has been influenced by that same kind of thinking, right? I'm focusing a lot more on my phrasing, I'm focusing a lot more on my rhythm, but I'm not allowing my head to dictate exactly, because beforehand I would have a phrase that I'd want to get in, but I'd have to build towards it. And I would build with grandiose a set of phrases that just simply did not fucking work in practice, right? And that was my ultimate issue. I do not have that issue seemingly right now, but it's good to know that once this goes on YouTube, I can always go back and watch this so that I can understand that, this is an issue that I do have, right? And I fucking failed the initial assignment. This is 33 minutes long at this point. And so I'm just going to end it here. See you guys. Bye-bye. Fuck you. Goodbye.